Geek mode initiated.
I'm totally feeling the mode.
All right. What up, y'all? This is Geek Mode Podcast. We're here for another edition. Of course, I got myself in the building because I carry myself here. And that myself is Martel, a.k.a. Marty Mart, a.k.a. co-founder of Geek Mode. To my right this time is...
TJ Canty coming fresh out the D. Let's go.
And who we have in the building in hologram form is...
Yo, this is the DA. I'm on a delay, which means I'm in a black hole.
All right. Now, shout outs to the founder, Kwame, who was supposed to be in the building for this podcast. But the jerk has actually a previous engagement that's actually very important. So, shout outs to him. We could have did this podcast last week, but we had a problem in communication on why it didn't happen. It's his fault, by the way. So
staying out of that one.
So the podcast that the past podcast topic of the day is, which it should have been last week, is Batman v Superman Star. First, I gotta say I saw it 4 times in 3 days.
4 times?
Yeah, I saw it 4 times in 3 days.
Damn, son.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it twice in
4 times in 3 days mean you saw it twice in 1 day.
Yes, I saw it twice in 1 day. Yes.
Which means you must have loved that movie.
I wouldn't say loved. I wouldn't say that. I damn sure wouldn't say that. Would you say that, DA? Would you say that you loved this movie?
No, I'm far from saying loving this movie. It's not, love is not the word. There are, you know what? It's like a tumultuous relationship. You go in, you fall in love real quick, and then all of a sudden you start realizing this shit ain't gonna work out. I went through the honeymoon phase, and then everything leveled out, and then I just wanted it to be over. I was playing Mary J. Blige music by the end of the movie.
Yeah, so TJ, what you thought?
Damn, I don't know how I follow that one up. I mean, I don't want to say it's a tumultuous relationship. Maybe it's one of them ones where, you get in a fight halfway in the middle and you're like, you know what, fuck this, I'm leaving. And then as you're walking out the door, you smell the fried chicken on the stove and you remember all the good parts of life. And then you turn around and you're like, let me sit down and have a conversation with her. Y'all kiss and make up at the end and you good to go. And then the next day you like, man, I should have left when I had a chance. But then you like, you know what, fuck it, we'll work it out. And you sit down and you have that food again and you like, man, that was enjoyable. Then she call your mama a bitch afterwards and you like, fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I found the movie good. I think it had a lot of flaws, has a lot of issues, and I think you're fooling yourself if you don't say it has issues and has flaws. But I was entertained, and I thought it was good. I don't think it's going in anybody's top 10. I don't think it's like the greatest movie I've ever seen. I have a hard time recommending it to people because I'm like, it has a lot of flaws, but then I always tell them like, you will be entertained by the time the credits roll. You'll be like, oh, okay, cool.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on it because I'm the same way because I'm trying my damnedest not to compare it to Man of Steel. And it's like, okay, I love Man of Steel. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't care what the haters say. I don't care what, Man of Steel was split 50-50. Batman versus Superman was split 70-30. So
you giving it credit.
You got people who, the 30% who are like, they love it no matter what. Then you got the 70% who see, it's not that they don't like I'll say they don't like what they see. They love the components. They love what it represents. They love what they see on the screen, but they don't like how it unfolded. And I think that's the primary issue that most people have. No one says, oh, well, Ben Affleck sucked in it. Oh, Henry Cavill sucked in it. Oh, Gal Gadot sucked in it.
Kwame says that.
Kwame
bad. Says that a lot.
It was disjointed. Mm-hmm. There were just certain things that were left out. Whatever this director's cut is, I'm hoping that it fixes everything, like sort of like the Daredevil. The Daredevil movie, director's cut, everyone said, oh, well, the director's cut made things a little better. Let's hope that that's what this does.
Right. Well, in terms of the audience split, everybody's saying that, it's, you're saying it's 70-30, but if we got to judge by Rotten Tomatoes, which I know some people do, I personally don't like to.
Pointless.
Rotten Tomatoes, the critics have it at 29%.
Right.
But the audience has it at 71%. Pardon me, I got a cold, so if I sound a little nasally sometime, my bad. So, with that said, that goes to show you that, people actually do like this film. It's so funny. People that I talk to that I actually wouldn't think would have liked this movie, they're actually saying the movie is great. And I'm saying, well, I wouldn't use the word great, but, to each his own.
If we're talking, like, I don't know if we're gonna go into the actual movie as a whole or just people are liking it right now, but just what I've noticed is comic book fans, like hardcore comic book fans, for the most part, don't like the movie, whether they're entertained or not entertained. Mm. But people that aren't hardcore comic book fans, meaning they don't go and buy weekly, comics, they don't follow the cartoons, they don't have action figures in their house, they love it because I would say they love it because it is, as a whole, a summer blockbuster popcorn movie. There's action, there's intrigue, there's an ending that you don't see coming, which is one thing I do give them credit for. If you've never read the comic books, you don't see that ending coming.
Okay.
It's just not. There's nothing in the movie that sets it up the way most movies with those type of endings will do it. This is a spoiler review too, right?
Yeah, you spoiled it. By this time, y'all should have seen it by now.
There's nothing in the movie that makes you say by the end of this movie, Superman will be dead in a coffin. So I think that...
Which I actually think is another problem, but go ahead.
The casual audience find it enjoyable, whereas us hardcore comic book fans have issues.
Mm-hmm. With that said, I'll start my little piece on it as we go into the specifics of what didn't work about Batman v Superman before we even get into what actually did work. But I'll say, after seeing it 4 times, my initial reaction to the movie was like, man, this shit is aight. It's just, it's a low aight. You on the verge of being like, this movie is terrible. I saw it in 3D first, so everything looked bad, and my sound quality was bad in that theater too, so that didn't help it. So like the Batman Nightmare scene looked like a jumble, a big mess. It looked like a sound stage. Watching it in 3D, it looked like he was just kind of like walking in place, circling. I'm like, that's terrible. Seeing it a second time in IMAX, I was like, oh, actually, no, this is actually a much better film than I thought. Actually, this looks good. The problems that I had with the movie in terms of story, though, still holds up. And then seeing it 2 more times after that, both in IMAX again and in 3D, and in my last showing in 3D, which me and Talmadge watched it in, it actually didn't look bad. I think it might be because of the sound quality or just the theater. I don't know. But all the problems still held up. So I could say I do like the movie after seeing it 4 times. I could say, I like the movie. The reason why I saw it 4 times, though, was because my ass already bought tickets for the goddamn thing. I bought them in advance. I didn't want to give them up. It actually ended up being a dope experience. It's kind of like going almost like a miniature Comic-Con in its own way. Where you're going to something that's geek related and you're just watching it over and over and over and breaking it down. I thoroughly enjoyed that experience of that. Now, with that said, let's start going into what didn't work. DA, what you felt didn't work for you?
Okay, well, let's start. I think, starting right out the box, the retelling of Martha and Tom getting murdered.
Word.
I don't think it was. I won't say it didn't work. It just wasn't necessary. Mm-hmm. And it took up time that could have been used to to fill in some other part of the backstory. Even him discovering who he was, I won't say who he was. Even him discovering the cave at the funeral, and the little dream sequence that he had. That particular dream sequence didn't work for me because it didn't do anything to further the plot at all. It was like hey, we're going to revisit the origin of Batman when everybody knows the origin. Even the general audience knows the origin of Batman. There's no need to retread it.
DA, I'm going to stop you for a second. The reason I'm going to stop you is because I had a friend who I was talking to about this movie, and he said, surprisingly, there are actually people who doesn't know Batman's origin.
I was going to bring that up.
Right, as crazy as that sounds. A friend of his with his girlfriend was sitting, or friend was sitting in the theater, and he was like, "Why are they telling like the origin of Batman again, all over again? Like, I know this." And she looked over at him and said, I didn't know this. I didn't know that this actually happened." So I guess it was for people. I guess there are people that are still out there that don't know.
Right, and I also think.
Okay.
Also think it matters on the way you tell that origin as well.
Correct. And
this is the first time we've ever seen Thomas Wayne fight back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a nerd, comic book geek, and seeing Thomas Wayne attempt to throw that punch, it kind of set up. It gave more weight to why this kid Bruce Wayne, one, is as violent as he is, and why he became sort of Batman in a sense. Like, every version of Thomas Wayne we've ever seen, even going back in the comics for the most part, has always been sort of like a guy who basically did nothing. The shot happened, he dies, and it's like you don't see the Wayne as a warrior fight, clan or group. But this one showed you like these are the type of people that aren't going to be bullied, and it kind of gave that. I just think its placement in this movie was in the wrong spot, but I'm just going to drop that and I'll go back to DA and let him finish.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I'll pick it up. I'll pick it up from there.
Okay.
Before I give it back to DA, I actually agree. My issue, especially after the fact, well, my first initial reaction to it wasn't the fact that you had the origin, but the fact that you lifted that kid like he was fucking flying. When that happened, when he falls in the hole and the bats circle him and he starts to levitate up out of the hole, I was like, oh my god, this movie's going to be bad.
Everybody said that.
Yeah, I was like, oh god, I'm fucking scared.
And then,
and
what saved that though was
the following scene after, but before I throw it back to DA, after the movie as a whole, I kept saying that beginning scene didn't belong there.
Right.
It didn't belong there.
And I'm gonna can I add in? Can I
Sure.
add in where that scene should have been? That scene
yeah.
should have been where Alfred and Bruce were talking in the mansion. In the burned down mansion, when he was talking about the Waynes were fighters, it could have been a voiceover of him saying that they were hunters.
I get what you're saying. To me, that scene could have been where it was. You remember, because the scene was in the movie twice, which lets me know that it wasn't. I don't think it was originally meant to be in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But I think leading in that fight, when you kept referencing the difference, whatever, I would have liked to see that scene take place during the fight. And it would have gave more weight to the whole Martha thing, which I'm sure everyone has an issue with that a little bit. I don't know, but it happened so early in the slow movie that by the time it got to that scene and they said to Martha, most people in the audience even forgot that Martha Wayne was his mother's name.
Now, I'm going to let DA finish because I actually have a lot to say on this movie, and I kind of want to go uninterrupted, and yet we keep interrupting him. So
that's because he's on delay,
right? I mean, but DA, just lay out, like what you didn't like about the movie. Just lay out. Go ahead, man. But let you go. When you're done, you're done.
What I did not like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did not like the choice of villain that they chose. I did not like Lex Luthor Jr. as a villain.
Okay.
I like his comic book counterpart, Alexander Luthor, but I do not like that he was the one used. I would have rather them use Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
What I also did not like was how just plain batshit crazy, for lack of a better term, they made him.
Okay.
He killed his right-hand woman. He killed everybody in the Senate just to get people to think that it just made the wanton violence and killing made no sense, if I could dare say that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give the fact, with the added scene, which means he's, with the deleted scene, the communion scene, meaning that he's somewhat batty.
Yeah, now I don't even address that shit. If it ain't in the movie, I don't want to hear nothing about it.
I was gonna say the same thing. But no, finish. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, okay. Then what also didn't work was Lois. Once again, just like in Man of Steel, Lois
Plot
was
device.
just in the way. I didn't like anything about her. She served no purpose to further anything. Her entire story about the bullet did nothing to further the story. She could have all of her parts could have been cut out of the movie, and the movie would have still been just fine. I find it very hard to accept this. And Amy Adams, she does fine by herself. It's just that Lois is poorly written for this series.
Okay.
And everything after that was fine to me. Well, it wasn't fine. I would, it wasn't like super excellent, but I mean, everything else can be overlooked. I think everything else had a purpose in it, so that's where I'll leave that for now.
All right, Talmadge, I'm going to let you go now, because I know what you're probably going to do. You're probably going to say, you're probably going to not only talk about what you didn't like about the film, but what you would have done. We'll save all that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought we were saving that.
Right, we're going to save that. So just try your best to talk about what you didn't like about the movie.
All right. As one of the few people that said I think the movie was good, one of the things I didn't like right off the bat is the editing. I didn't like the editing of the movie. I didn't like the pacing, as we've talked about again. Certain scenes didn't belong in certain places in that movie, and I don't think it was meant to be in those places, so I didn't like that. I did not like the fact that it was 3 different movies taking place as one, and I really do feel like they were trying to pull off an artistic direction, and it just didn't work. I did not like the theme of the movie, or the lack of a theme in the movie. I.e., I didn't like the way they painted Superman in this movie. I don't know what else. Most of the stuff that you already said, I kind of agree with, except for the Lex Luthor part. I actually did like him. I can't really go too deep into what I didn't like, because most of the stuff I didn't like, you said it, but it'll become repetitive. It really comes down to the editing and the pacing of the movie. I think if you fix the editing and the pacing of this movie, you would have had a better movie on your hand. But I'll save the things that I would do to fix it. I'll save that till we get to that part of the conversation.
Right. Now, so with that said, that I can actually even in my half pretty quick, because my sentiments are pretty much echo the both of yours. But what I will say is, why I should get 4 times. It's not that, excuse me. It's not that it's edited, it's edited bad, but I won't say that it's paced bad. I think the pacing was fine. I think that the scenes are incomplete. So there's scenes that they set up that I go, oh, all right, this is where you're going, and then it gets dropped like completely. Story points get dropped completely. The magic bullet, you're just like, okay, what's going on with this? So why do you have that? Like, why do you have a bullet? Why do you have a bullet that it's so unique that it should be easily traceable? You're only doing that because you want to have Lex Luthor on the board, but he's going to be on the board anyway. In terms of he's going to be in play when it comes to this movie. Superman was definitely, as much as I like him in the movie, he is shitted on. I felt that there wasn't enough encounter in between the two. I dislike the fact that they don't really get into their philosophies that often.
The thing.
Right. I don't like the fact that Batman kills without explanation. I like the fact that he's killing, but it doesn't make sense why he is. Considering the movie is about another hero killing, it's a direct contradiction to the foundation of your franchise. Man of Steel, the thing that everybody beefed with was his alleged lack of care in Man of Steel in terms of people dying, etc., etc. In this movie, that lack of care is actually warranted in terms of people's dismay in the movie. You know, Batman kills, Superman sees him and doesn't try to take him down after basically watching him kill people.
You know, it's funny you say that because none of the people that are complaining about this movie complains about that.
Right.
That's none of the complaints. And that goes back to the movie not having a theme because this movie doesn't even address the fact that people were upset that Superman killed Zod at the end of his movie.
Right.
This movie never even touches on that. It's more about the collateral damage.
Right. Which goes into another reason why I feel like they do Superman a disservice. Because he kills. Basically at the beginning of the movie. He kills that terrorist. It's a dope scene. Dope scene. Scene that makes no sense for the character in terms of why you fear him. You know. And he has no issue with that, but that's what the movie ultimately becomes about. Not about Man of Steel. So why would you have the Man of Steel flashback if you're really not going to use it? You know, Batman uses it to some degree, but not much. So it's just like, I don't know where you guys are going. Where are you guys going with all this? The reason for them fighting each other is stupid. It's dumb. The fact that Luthor somehow knows both of their identities already, and he's sending messages like first of all, old school style. He's mailing them, you know, like licking postage stamps, putting it on an envelope, and mailing Clark Kent and Clark Kent and Batman, like these little Polaroid. Like, you know, today we take pictures off of fucking phones. Sending Polaroids to Batman and Superman to like push them over the edge. Batman's already over the edge allegedly.
I like that part. But go ahead.
All right, whatever. So if you're an investigative reporter and Batman is a detective, why did he never think to dig to see what was going on with that? Oh, well, maybe Batman's unhinged. But he doesn't look any unhinged to me. He's clean cut. He's well dressed. He has a nightmare or two.
He's alcoholic.
He doesn't appear to be.
Well, it was set up in a throwaway line.
It was with Alfred,
yeah.
but it's not executed well to me, and that's the problem.
Pacing.
Right. Well, I don't consider it a pacing issue. I consider it a content issue. You know, you needed to revise that and rewrite that and put something else, show more. He was supposed to be deceptive. Oh, now I'm going into what I would have done. I'm going to continue to just talk about what I didn't like. I didn't like the fact that Superman tried to kill Batman. You know, I know Talmadge doesn't agree with me, but this is my time right now, so shut up.
I'm not touching on it.
Right. You know, I feel like you bring Superman's stock down when he basically does the boil up your hand, throw out the death blow, the whole raw, you punch him in the head before you get hit with kryptonite, which to me implies that you would actually try to kill him in that moment. I think that's a bad scene for Superman, and it doesn't really work for him. Him dying at the end doesn't really work for me because there's not enough of the movie set up for me to actually care that he dies, knowing he's going to return for Justice League. So, Doomsday fight I liked. Wonder Woman I loved.
Are we going into the likes?
No, I'm about to go back into my dislike.
Okay.
But they had no business. They had no business being there. You know, I don't think that Doomsday made any logical sense to even be created the way he did because you put blood in Zod's face. I think it's dumb. I think it's just one of the dumbest shits in the movie. And those are all. I think those are all my dislikes. Hopefully, those dislikes won't bleed into what I like, or maybe I'll talk about that as we talk about what we would have changed. With that said, DA, what did you like about the movie or loved even?
What did I like? Okay, I loved the continuity between Man of Steel and the scene with Bruce driving into Metropolis. I was on the edge of my seat like I had not seen that before. And I thought that worked really well. I really did. What else did I like about it? I loved the portrayal of Batman and Bruce Wayne. Ben Affleck can't do any wrong for me in this role. He did amazing. He did an amazing job. He's the best yet, to me, personally.
Better than Adam West?
Gal Gadot. Pardon?
Better than Adam West?
Well, you know what? You don't want to ever be better than Adam West.
Oh my God!
And because he's the definitive Batman for several generations. This one is the current definition. Okay. Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman. I was worried that she wasn't going to look the part. I was worried that she wasn't going to be able to. I think her keeping the accent was a very, very good touch. It was a nice subtle touch.
I also don't think she had a choice in that.
Her accent, well, I thought she could hide her accent.
No, she can't.
Well, I thought she was great as Wonder Woman. I liked the part when there's a double-edged sword here. I love what worked for me was the part when the Senate exploded.
Okay.
Because even though Henry Cavill didn't emote as much as he could have, it was a feeling of regret and remorse there because he knew he couldn't do anything but stand there.
Okay.
And realize, oh my God, there's nothing that I could do. There's nothing that I can do. It happened. And now people are going to be blaming him for what happened just because he was there. The pier scene worked perfect with the Batmobile and Batman just killing a bunch of people, which was freaking awesome. And I can't argue. And it's weird because you want to say, oh, well, Batman doesn't kill, but no, this Batman is sick of your shit. And so, he'll tag your car around the docks. I think that I think what also worked was, well, I'm pretty sure that's it. The fight worked between. It was pretty intense. The fight between all four, I should say, and that was pretty much what worked for me. The visuals worked for me,
Okay.
And I can't really. And here's the thing: I'm torn because Luthor was maniacal. He was insane. He played a great role, but it just wasn't the role any of us were expecting. I can't say that he acted bad because he did good. He just wasn't what any of us wanted. It's like, okay, I want chocolate, but you're going to give me corn chips. This is the most delicious freaking corn chips ever, but yo, I wanted this, and this is what I'm set on. And that he was good as what he was. He just wasn't for the movie. So that's where I'm pretty much in it.
All right, so you like corn chip Luthor. I got it. TJ, so what were you? What are your likes or loves or?
What I like and love. Well, I'm gonna jump all over the place. Sort of how this movie is with what I liked. Just going back to what DA said about the dock scene. I love the cinematography. I love the way Zack Snyder captures action, and I love that scene. I know a lot of people were upset because they were saying Batman was just willy-nilly killing people, but there was a subtleness in that scene that I don't think a lot of people picked up on, in the sense that although Batman was killing people in this scene, he wasn't directly killing people. He was just sort of just letting them die or making situations for them to die. And it's funny because it's like you look at a scene. One of the scenes where he was most evidently killing the person was when he pulled out the I don't know the fucking name of this gun, but the Batmobile is disintegrating his car with his gun, and it's like, well, he's really just taking out the car. It just so happens to be that there are thugs in there, and then he uses the grappling hook to flip a car and slam it into another car, and it's like, yeah, you know those people are dead, but it wasn't like he killed them. He just used their car to disable another car. Or like the battle at the end of the movie where he punches a dude so hard he goes face first into the floor, and it's like, if that guy's not dead, he's paralyzed for the rest of his life.
For sure.
Or where the guy stabs him and Batman takes the knife and stabs the other dude in the upper shoulder. And it's like, well, he didn't really stab him in the throat, he just stabbed him. But then he blew up that entire floor, so you know everybody he knocked out several seconds earlier, they're dead because they were still unconscious. It's sort of like, he's like the irresponsible Batman more so than the murderous Batman. I love that aspect. I loved whenever they gave Henry Cavill a chance to act, he came through. But it was so far and few in between where he had a chance to act that it kind of made it seem like he couldn't act. For instance, that Senate scene. I love the way the Senate scene played out. I love what it represented. Like you stated earlier, I love the way that it wasn't a look of anger. It was a look of both disappointment and regret on his face. And when he stood there in the fire, and I would have loved it if they had made him a little more disheveled, or even if his hair was out of place from the blast or something, to kind of like,
he would have fell to his knees or something, or cried or something.
Yeah, but we'll save all that. We'll save all of what we should have done.
I didn't need all that, but like just something to show that there was an explosion beyond him standing in the pits of hell. But the fact that the look on his face and the way his eyes tilted and he turned, he didn't cry, he didn't break down because, you know, he's Superman at this point and he's been through this, but it was just that disappointment. And it harkened back to me to the whole Jor-El line of, you can lead them, they can be better, you can lead them into the sun, which really disappointed that this movie didn't touch on that at all. But it harkened back to that because it was almost that moment where, in that moment, you realize that Clark Kent, Superman, Kal-El fell out of love with humanity. That's what the look on his face was. It was like, you would do this to your own people. What's the point of me even being here? You know? I love Lex Luthor in this movie. I know a lot of people hated it. I loved it. I just think that, like Martel said, where his scenes weren't given enough time to breathe. I feel like there's a 15 to 20 minutes of this movie where Lex Luthor was supposed to reveal himself that they just cut out of this movie, but I love the portrayal we got. I love that he was a maniacal genius. I love that he was crazy, unhinged, but also not very crazy. There were moments where they kind of touched on it, but they didn't allow it to breathe, where you kind of got to see that although we see him as crazy, he's really putting on an act. Overall, I love that. I love the fact that he was maniacal enough to take the time to write a letter to Bruce Wayne, you know, basically mocking him. Maniacal enough to take Polaroid photos of Martha Kent tied up with witch written over her head. Maniacal enough to have Lois Lane kidnapped, brought to the top of a building, and then pushes her off the building, you know, without knowing for sure if Superman was going to save her or not. We all knew that. Like, I love that aspect of him. Definitely love the opening scene with him, with Bruce Wayne in Metropolis. But it just comes down to what I always say, like, so many great things and great scenes in this movie just put in the wrong place, or just not given enough time to breathe. Not to get too long-winded on what I loved, I'll just pass it off to Martel.
All right. With that said, all right. What I loved about the movie, before I get into what I loved about the movie, the problem with this movie is the things I love about the movie actually is what hurts the movie. And it's similar to what I think Thomas just said. It's like things are kind of in the wrong place. Things don't really, and going into what I was saying earlier, things don't really have enough time to breathe. So, with that said, like everyone else, I love the Man of Steel scene from Bruce Wayne's in the population's point of view. I think that was amazing, and I thought that was the right note for this movie to be on. With that said, there was a fundamental misunderstanding that I feel this movie has of one, Man of Steel, two, Superman himself, and Batman himself. they do a lot of killing and a lot of Batman killing. All right, here it is, because I was supposed to be talking about what I liked about the movie. See, what it is when you break the movie down scene by scene, there were good to great moments in the movie. When you put the movie together, the movie's not so great. You know, you can't. I don't think that you can watch these scenes together and make cohesive sense of what's really happening. I've seen the movie 4 times, and I understand what you're doing. I'm just saying you don't lead me to this place that you're trying to be to. So breaking the movie down scene by scene, like I said, 1, I enjoyed the Man of Steel scene. 2, I actually enjoyed the terrorist scene where Superman shows up to save Lois. I actually thought that was great.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Right.
I just not to cut you off, but the way they handle Superman's flying has probably been the best I've ever seen in my life.
Agreed.
That the way he comes in, the way he cuts those unnatural angles.
Right.
You know, I was like, when that scene took place and he flew in, I was ready. I put the seatbelt on, like, this is gonna be great.
Right.
And then it didn't.
And it wasn't great. Right. So, you know, I love that. I love the montage sequences of Superman. When he's dragging that boat, I thought looked amazing. I thought him saving the kids. And they, you know, in Mexico, and they lorded over him that way. They reached out to him. I thought that was amazing. I really enjoyed. I did enjoy Batman killing as well. With the understanding from what I read in articles about this movie was that this was a weary, broken down Batman for a reason that I thought was going to show up more so in this movie that it does not. So without that reason, it almost forces me not to like it as much. Their encounter when the Batmobile bumps into Superman, I think that was dope. You know, and I love some of the dialogue in this movie where Superman, he says, listen, when your light shines in the sky, don't go to it. The bat is dead. Bury him. Consider it mercy. And Batman's response was, tell me, do you bleed? And Superman look back at him like, motherfucker, who the fuck you think you... Let me get the fuck up out of here before I kill your ass. I loved all of that. The problem is it doesn't make sense when you put it together with the rest of the movie. I actually liked Luthor's performance as well. I just thought it was overly done. For what it was, though, I have my issues with it, but I did like the direction that they were trying to go to with it. I actually liked Lois. You just needed to put her in a place where she was actually doing something. I liked Wonder Woman. I loved how she was even before she actually shows up as Wonder Woman. You just
even talk about that, but go ahead.
Right, you just needed to. I didn't know what she was though. She was just there.
I wish they would have not. I wish they never announced her as Wonder Woman.
We'll
I know you can't not. I know there's no. It's impossible to do that. I just
right, but we'll get into that. What I also like, I actually liked the Batman Apocalypse scene, the Nightmare Batman scene. I like the I love the fact that they're dealing in time travel. I think that's a ballsy move for them, and that could really make or break them. But I like what they had done so far. Batman and Superman fighting, the way the fight looked and the way it took place, and where it took place, I thought that was great. And of course, I love the Doomsday battle. I thought the Doomsday battle was dope. I thought Superman got busy there. I thought everybody had a chance to sign. And of course, the one fight that I think that was Superman's moment when he fought Doomsday first by himself. I thought that was his moment and what he did, taking him up into space and everything like that. You're just not gonna see that anywhere else. I thought it was like incredible to see. And of course, the Batman by himself fight scene. I thought it was dope. We finally got to see Batman fight the way we've always wanted to see him, that we always knew that he could.
That was the first time we really, forgive me, that's the first time since the Batman 66 Batman that we've actually saw Batman legitimately fight anyone.
Right.
And people don't understand that. Whenever I bring up Adam West Batman, people get all upset. It was goofy. And I'm like, yeah, it was goofy because it was a Batman for his time. But for as goofy as that Batman was, they also took him kind of serious. Like whether it was pow, bing, boom, he was still throwing hands. He was mixing it up. He was fighting.
Yeah, he was still fighting.
He wasn't.
And they were putting them balls on him.
Yeah, right. He wasn't. No disrespect to Michael Keaton, he wasn't throwing back fist, one hand, arm out, and the people were just randomly falling around him. Or he wasn't holding his back ears and moving his elbows in circles. Sorry, Christian Bell.
Ooh.
And people were just doing magical backflips. He was legit. Like that shit was. Go ahead, continue.
Right. So he was like legit. Right. Bust your ass. So yeah, and believe it or not, I know a lot of people don't like it. I actually like the whole Martha shit.
Me too.
I liked it because I've been a geek for as long as I can remember. And I think I've been labeling myself a geek probably since I was 15. And I did not realize, even though I always knew it, that Martha Kent and Martha Wade had the same fucking name.
Never put it together.
It never dawned on me until the movie pointed it out.
Not until this movie. I'm with you. It never crossed my mind until this movie.
And I'm just sitting here like, wow. Like, holy shit. Like, that's a great connection. I thought it could have been better handled, but I'll get into that in a second.
You know what's funny about that connection?
Uh-huh.
That's a connection that a non-comic book fan had to make. Chris Terrio is not a comic book guy.
Right. And he made the connection.
That's what's crazy about that.
But you know what? But also with that said, I think it also shows how much geeks probably don't really pay attention to comic books. We swear we know all this stuff. But like, you don't give a fuck about Martha Kent. You don't give a fuck about Martha Wayne. You don't care about any of that. You just know that Batman's parents died. You know that Clark Kent has parents. But really, all you care about is Superman and his one-dimensional look at these characters. That's why Superman, as an example, has a hard time growing in the industry because nobody wants to open their imagination to the character himself.
But you're highlighting something, and this might be off subject, but you're highlighting one of the biggest issues in the geek community is we have our own perceptions of what we want these characters to be and what we care about and don't care about. And a lot of times it doesn't align with the character itself. Like the argument that Batman can beat everything, does everything, the greatest hero ever, doesn't align to who Batman really is, which he's always been, aside from being a rich guy that beat up poor people. He's always been a guy that sort of had to struggle to get to the next step. He faces his villains might outsmart him, they might outbrute him, but he has to figure out a way to get to that next level. He's not just the God MC of superheroes, which is what people paint him as. And it goes to the same level. Everyone wants Superman to be this Boy Scout hero that does everything without falter. And it's like, but Superman has always been a multi-layered character. He's always had a mean streak, and he's aware of it. He's always struggled with the morality of being a godlike person, passing judgment on humans. You know, do you save this person? How much damage is it safe to put on someone? You know, and no one ever pays attention to that, and it goes back to what you just said. Right.
Okay. So now, with that said, let's go into how we would have changed the film. Now, normally I would let you guys start it off first, but let me do this one first. Like I said, I like the movie, and I have a lot of issues with the movie. And the reason why I end up getting actually angrier at the film, I start getting mad, is because for what they have, I go, this could have been a better film if you just did certain things a little different. So, like I said, I'll lead. So I know DA, just sit here and listen for a little while, just pay attention. All right. The Batman Martha, the Batman beginning scene with the parents dying does not belong there. It actually sets up a bad start for the film. Especially get rid of that goddamn levitating kid. So we'll do that. But really, where the movie needs to start with, it needs to start with Man of Steel. It needs to start with the the world mankind is introduced to the Superman. You need to do that the same way you have it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I'd still feel like that was how the movie started, and that whole Martha shit was added later.
All right. Well, okay, cool. So they really should. Then either way, they shouldn't have done that. They should have just started the way they set out to. You're following. See, now I'm going to go into just a quick bit, but this is the best thing I thought they should have done, or one of the best things. You fast forward 18 months later and you go into the terrorist scene. I think that's bad pacing because we don't really make the connection well. What they should have done was move up the scene, the montage scene, or at least the commentary scene with Neil deGrasse Tyson, Holly Hunter's character as the senator, the reporter from Man of Steel, and I think there was somebody else. Either way, those scenes should be moved up, and we should be talking about the anniversary of the Kryptonian attack. Mm-hmm. That's how we should have really been, because it keeps you connected to Man of Steel.
We're approaching the 2-year mark.
Right. Now, another thing I didn't like about the movie was the way they tried to shoehorn Justice League in. The way you could have done that organically, it could have been said, within the 18 months, 6 months later, the people from the sea showed up at the United Nations. And you could have had Aquaman be at the United Nations, basically complaining about that world engine laying into the sea. And him saying, listen, if you come into my seas again, I'll kick your ass. Boom. That's it. End of Aquaman. We never see his ass again. We don't have to get the bullshit of him coming up into the water and striking a fucking drone and teleport, and flying somewhere in the sea.
That's crazy. You would do it that way.
Right.
Sorry.
All right.
Go ahead. Nope.
Okay. So, I think that's one way of doing it. Cyborg, again, connected to Man of Steel. The reason why he's all fucked up is because of the collapse of buildings and all that, and it nearly kills him. Flash could have, this is a bit much, but you could have done it this way. When the Phantom Zone, when they send the Otherworld engine back to the Phantom Zone, obviously electricity comes off of it. What if the electricity strikes a building that Barry Allen so happens to be in? He gets hit by it, sending him and giving his powers, blah, 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 blah. That's a more simpler way of introducing Flash, and there you have it. Now, how those two in particular should be introduced, Cyborg and Flash, should be when Luthor is having that conversation with the senator. Listen, I got 3 things going on right now, right? We discovered kryptonite, right? I think we should make that as a deterrent. Why? Because before that, you have the scene with the terrorist scene, which is Superman going in and having crazy shit happen there. By the way, Superman should have a longer scene there. He shouldn't just be there to help Lois. That's a direct contradiction of who Superman is. Superman goes to help people. Mm-hmm. Should have had him go there, further incite a terrorist situation, him save some people, but also get some people killed. Save Lois, but it continues on the path of the issues that you have with the Man of Steel, because it all stems from the Man of Steel movie, which still goes into this whole terrorist scene.
He should have came in there. You should have saw him actively taking out every other terrorist that's in there. Then do the whole Lois scene, take her back to Metropolis, and the rest of the terrorists then descend on the village.
Exactly.
It's not there.
Boom.
It would have held more weight, and it would have let you know that, another an analogy of American, interference overseas is if we go in and we clear out a town, we leave behind a lot of resentful teenagers and they create ISIS. You know what I'm saying?
Precisely.
That's what it was supposed to be.
Right.
But again, when we go into my dislikes with the editing, and like you said earlier, there are scenes that needed to breathe longer and they never let it breathe.
Right. But I also think because they never thought to write it that way.
You don't think it exists somewhere on
paper?
No,
I do not.
Okay.
So with that said, going back to Luthor now. So Luthor should have been saying, well, look, I got 3 plans. Look, we got this kryptonite, right? We see that it works on a dead body. I need to be able to test it on a live body, right? So you have that. Then you have, well, look, if Holly's saying, or the senator saying, I don't really know about that. Well, all right, well, let's try this one out. Look, we got this guy. You see Cyborg running on a treadmill. You're trying him out. Look, we have him, and we also have this kid, at Star Labs. I've been keeping an eye on these people. You know what I mean? We could probably make them and put them on our side, put them into the government, and use them as our super beings. You know what I mean? We could do it like that. She's like, all right, so that's your metahuman thesis. Yes, this is my metahuman thesis. I think we have more, but these are the 2 that I actively know about right now, right? So let's use them, right? And he can say, oh, there's one other, but I'm going to keep that one a secret. But right now, I also think, if that doesn't work for you, I also think we need a superpowered being to lead this. Listen, I've been working on some things. Listen, we have Zod's body. Why don't we? She's like, no, I don't think you should be doing any unethical things. You don't need another super being that we can fuck around and bring back to life to fuck shit up again. No. So obviously, Luthor's point of view is, no, I got to move this forward. So what I'm going to do is make Batman and Superman fight, right? Make those two fight, kill off the senator the way he does, and say, you see, am I not right? Do we not need a deterrent? Not, I'm going to make Batman and Superman fight because I want to see Batman kill Superman. Ha 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 ha. That was his fucking dumb-ass biological plan. It was the dumbest shit in the world. No, that doesn't make sense for Luthor. Not at all. So with that...
I'm glad you said that. It's funny, too, because the movie hints to the fact that Luthor has been planning this Batman-Superman fight for 2 years.
Right.
Which, when you think about that, and then you think of like the fact that there was no real motivation, it kind of highlights how dumb the motivation was.
Right.
Go ahead.
Now, I know this is long. Me breaking this movie down. Yes, I'm going to give all you guys your say, but just let me finish.
Go ahead.
Not that you interrupt me, man, was a problem. I'm just like, I know y'all want to get to y'all shit.
Yeah, no, I'm just dropping notes.
Right,
here
please
I'm
do.
Forget it.
Right, please do. So now my next thing is the characters themselves. Superman is misused. I needed to see Superman do more shit. This is the time I'm supposed to see him do more super feat shit. Man of Steel, I saw him beat the shit out of somebody. Man of Steel is the perfect Superman movie because in that movie you get him beating the shit out of somebody, you got him saving people, and you got him doing feats of strength and power. This movie, he doesn't have much of that. In this movie, you get it in montage sequences, but the montage sequence doesn't make any sense. He's dragging a boat. Looks great. What the fuck is he dragging a boat for? And it's on his side. And it's tipped over. It's like, yo, I mean, I like it. Looks dope, but what the fuck? So look, give me something that I can go with.
That was a Rocky training montage.
Right.
That was so annoying though. Why is Superman training?
Right. So what he needed, what I needed to see is when he got the moment to rescue that kid, I was supposed to see him rescue the kid and put the goddamn fire out.
Which is what I thought he was going to
do. Right. But he doesn't do that. I needed to see that. His interaction with Batman, he should have tried to take Batman down the minute he saw him. Because you saw him in the paper of Brandon motherfuckers. You heard him killing motherfuckers in the Batmobile. It shouldn't have been this considerate mercy bullshit. He should have said, yo, your reign of terror is done. Batman should have tried to fight him right there. Superman should have kicked his ass. Superman should have said, now I'm going to clean up the mess that you fucked up. He should have had another Superman moment, taking out all those people in that moment. He should have said, but what the hell were y'all fucking doing anyway? Open up the case. It's kryptonite. He passes out. Batman gets away. The criminal gets away. And now we know kryptonite works on a live body.
Yep.
So now that we know that, you move into the second motivation. This is why Batman trains. And the reason why he should be training is because his ass should be out of shape. He shouldn't have been alive for 2 years. He shouldn't have been Batman the whole time. I get this impression that Batman never stopped being Batman. He should have retired. His lines of motivation shouldn't have been, oh, you see what Superman has done? He should have been saying, you see what I have lost. Alfred's conversations with Batman should have been, yo, you are going too far. You don't get that. So now that Superman has done what he's done.
You kind of get it, but again, they don't let it breathe.
They don't let it breathe. Right, so now, what you were supposed to do after that happens, Batman says, fuck this shit, I'm training. Now, once he trains and decides to fight Batman, that fight sheet, all that I'm saying, actually should have happened within the first hour of the film. It's actually very possible. See, what was supposed to happen with Luthor doing all the bugged out shit that he was doing, in terms of the bullet, if you have to keep that in the movie. But in terms of Superman listening out to Batman when he was there to investigate Luthor, Superman as an investigative reporter should have tried to put 2 and 2 together and couldn't do it. And then realized the only man that can help me is Batman.
Can I add something real quick?
Please do.
So that magic bullet,
Uh-huh.
it shouldn't have been lodged in a random journal.
Right.
Should have been a bullet deflected off of Superman.
Agreed.
Lex Luthor should have had whatever access to Kryptonian technology, somehow found a way to forge, whether using kryptonite or something, to forge a bullet out of Kryptonian metal or something. And his terrorist guys were there to see if they can make a bullet that can affect Superman.
Oh, that's a better.
That's what it should have been.
Right.
And it felt like it. Like if you look at the way that bullet was designed, it seemed like it was designed for some bigger purpose than to just randomly kill a bunch of black people.
Right.
Now that's that.
Right. Ahead. So now continuing on with that, once you start putting those pieces together, once you start understanding, like, yo, man, all this crazy. This is before the explosion at Capitol Hill. Once you start seeing that, yo, Luthor has a connection that I can't pin on him, right? I gotta talk to the fucking Batman, right? What if they end up fighting, right, based upon the information that he knows, and obviously because Batman is out of it, Superman pleads with Batman in that sense. Like, look, man, if you think your justice is the right way, because, I'm sorry, I'm skipping something. I think when failing at taking the Batman in, I think he should have tried to investigate the Batman. Like, go to prisons, go to, like, people who have witnessed him.
He being Clark Kent.
Him being Clark Kent. Once he does this, he understands that, oh shit, Batman isn't actually all bad. I don't like his methods, but there's something about him that was once sort of just, but not. I'm kind of confused, right? So once you do that, when he sees Batman and Batman tries to kill him, he should say, yo, look, I understand a little bit now. If you feel that your brand of justice is the right one, then look, you can kill me. You know what I mean? But if you feel like he should have had that Superman moment, like, look, you know that it's wrong. Do you really want to live in a world where your brand of justice is the only kind of justice? Mm-hmm. You know, Batman should have then realized, yo, I am going too far. This man isn't what, you know, for somebody who's supposed to be a killer, he's fucking sacrificing him. He's sacrificing himself to me. All right, my man, what the fuck is going on?
Then when he says, I felt him in life, it would have made more sense.
It'd have made more sense. So now, when you do that, Batman and Superman from that point on should be working together still reluctantly. They're not friends yet. But it's just like, all right, well, now we'll come together and we'll start doing a little bit of research, blah, 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 blah. In the midst of doing that, that's where you have the Martha scene. You know, Superman should be the one that's inquiring about Batman because he's a fucking investigative reporter. You know, Batman is the one who's being closed off and isolated. But he can't help it. Like, you know, he opens up a little bit. Well, yeah. Because, you know, Superman should say, look, man, I read about your parents. But, yo, man, like, what is it really that bad for you? What really happened? You know, and he can kind of go into the Robin situation. He can go a little bit into the parent situation. And then Superman can say, my mother's name is Martha, too. And that's the end of that. And he walk off. And that can open Batman up a little bit more. That's it. You don't have to overplay it. So you do that. Then you have the explosion at Capitol Hill. And Superman feel the way he feel. And Batman be like, yo, dog, they playing you. You know what I mean? And then you move into the Doomsday scene, which, by the way, I know I've talked long enough. This is the last of it. It shouldn't have been Doomsday. It should have been Bizarro, hands down.
Yeah, you know what? That was going to be my suggestion when you got around to me.
Right.
It should have been Bizarro.
And it was.
And if you want to get technical, it could have been Bizarro, and he over the course of the fight become unstable and become Doomsday.
Yeah. Well, it was Bizarro, but we'll go.
Right, but see, the reason why I wouldn't have done that, DA, because I think by making it Bizarro and looking like Zod, you then make it the ghost of Christmas, or the ghost of Superman's past. Mm-hmm. The man that I killed, the last Krypton that I'll ever see.
Which should have been the last person's life he's ever took.
The last person's life he's ever took.
Right.
Returns to him. Do I kill him again? You know, what do I do? What if that's the reason why he dies this time? Which then gives validity to Man of Steel on some, you see, motherfuckers, this is why I killed his ass, because he's going to kill me anyway.
Right.
You know, and kill all of you.
Right.
So you have a missed opportunity there. One other thing. Lois Lane. Lois should have been kind of helping Clark Kent out with his investigation. That would have been nice. That would have given him more purpose for me. But that's a little bit of a side note. Wonder Woman, make her an ambassador, explains why she's there. She's actually just some woman walking around. She's a woman walking around going to the ATM. That's all she does in the movie. Other than when she shows up as Wonder Woman. She
was positioned as they were going to say, you don't know if this is supposed to be Catwoman or not. And then it became Wonder Woman. But they paid, because they told us it was Wonder Woman before the movie even came out, we never got that moment of mystery. Right,
but you know what? I don't think it would have been smart to play it up as Catwoman anyway.
Yeah.
I think because you want to get to Justice League, establish them. Stop thinking you have to have 20, 30 minutes of establishing who a character is. I need to know who you are, what you do. Once I know that, that's all I need to know. I will understand who you are as a character as the movie goes on. Which happens with Wonder Woman. How she is in the movie is great. She looks great. She seems like a person of high stature. Mm-hmm. Right? She seems like she got some money. Right? So then give her the title for it. You give it that title. You go, now I understand why she's at Luther's party. And you move on. That's it. I'm done. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. Now, you can understand why I'm actually mad at the movie, because I have to pat myself in the back. I think that's a better movie than what we actually saw on screen. And it's all there. I didn't make this up. It's all in your script. It's right there. You just didn't go into any of that shit. I'm done. Talmadge, you take. What's your take?
If you guys heard our Civil War trailer review, I kind of gave my prediction of what the movie was going to be, and that's what the movie I would have wanted to see.
Okay.
I honest to God would have loved to see that movie. I don't think you need to change it as deep as Martel did. I think a lot of the stuff that was in this movie worked. You just needed to make it breathe. You needed more opportunity for it to breathe. There are things that I would have changed. For instance, I would take out the depth of Martha and Thomas Wayne from the beginning. I would start with the Man of Steel stuff. I would add more heroic Superman moments. There were no heroic Superman moments, but not just him saving the day, but him interacting with people. There's an old comic book that I really, really love, and it wasn't All-Star Superman. I can't think of where it was from, where there's basically someone that's getting ready to commit suicide, and Superman flies up, sits next to him, and just basically sits there. Like, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I'm not going to tell you why you should do it, but I'm just going to be here to hear you out. And you know that if that guy jumped, Superman was going to save him anyway, but it was the fact that he'd rather help the guy, like really help him, not just save the day, but really help him. We didn't get any of that in that movie. I would have added scenes, for instance, where he goes to Africa, and instead of him just saving Lois, save more villagers. Show him actively saving people. And maybe in the midst of saving people, he doesn't think about the diplomatic situation, that now he's creating a void there for a deeper, bigger organization to come in. I wouldn't change too much about Wonder Woman. I actually really loved the way she was presented. I love that she was a mysterious person. No one quite knew who she was. I just would have delved on that a little deeper. I would have had her be there and Lex Luthor not necessarily know she's there. I think in that scene when the Luthor party happens, I think he's 100% fully aware of who Clark Kent is, or who Bruce Wayne is, or who she is. And I think that when Bruce Wayne goes to sort of get the information from the computer, the reason that he's stuttering in that scene is because he's trying to give Bruce Wayne enough time to get the information, because he's still trying to create this distrust and this conflict. The movie didn't pay off. We should have seen him confer with Marcy afterwards, like, do you think he got it, or did he get it, or something to let me know that this Lex Luthor has been fully aware, and not just a guy who's just running around doing shit and shit just having to pay off.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm trying.
He didn't communicate with Mercy at all.
He didn't communicate with her. She was a faceless.
It was like, Mercy, go do this, and it was like no information brought to him, or no, it was just weird.
Jeffrey the butler had more interactions with the Smith family than the Banks family than she did with Luthor in this movie, and it was weird. It was like, to show me how menacing and evil he was, show him interacting with her beyond just like, do this, is my car ready? So that way when he kills her, you realize just how deeply fucked up this guy is, right?
Right.
You could have fixed those little things. You can fix those things. You can create, like the scene where he's talking to the senator, and he's going in. He's giving her this basically well-rehearsed speech, where it's his rehearsed speech. It's his whole, what's the greatest lie in America? That's his rehearsed speech. That's his version of the Joker. Do you know how I got these scars? When she touches him, he has a visceral reaction to being touched. He was disgusted by it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't so much that, like, how dare you think you can touch me. It was like, a person is touching me. I don't like this. Yeah. Add to that. Expand on that.
Right.
Is that his reason for not liking Superman? Because it's a foreign body invading his place, which he thinks is the world, which he thinks is his playground.
I don't think so. Let me just jump in real quick. Well, and that's the thing that kind of annoyed me of why they didn't go in the direction of Bizarro. He appears to want control of everything. He wants control of the Superman. Not that he's an invader in that sense. I think he looks at him like, oh, he's here and I can't control it.
Right.
Which is actually...
which goes to my saying the world is his playground aspect.
Okay, cool. Right. Continue.
Yeah, so I mean that just goes to that, and if you watch the movie, you get a sense too. There's a scene, the scene that in the theater everyone laughs at both times I've seen it, where he throws the pictures on the ground, they're on the rooftop. You know, Clark Kent, Superman bends down to look at the pictures, and Luthor kind of goes to touch him, but doesn't really touch him. I think that was again when they actually gave him the movie room to breathe. You saw that Luthor in his mind is this little man who wants to have all the power, and his real beef with Superman is that this is someone that's more powerful than him. Right. And in that moment, he was more powerful than Superman. And that was exhilarating almost to a sexual level for him. But they didn't expound on it even further down the line. They sort of just left that scene to be. You know, there was no real payoff. But I love that aspect. I love that he was so confident. And the only time we really got to see him be Luthor was when he was talking to Lois Lane on that roof, because at that moment he had all the power and he projected that. And when he pushed her off that roof, that was Luthor, whether you want to say junior or senior, that was Luthor, right? I just wanted to see more of that. If I'm fixing it, I don't want to spend 40 minutes talking about it like you did. That's what I'm trying to do as quickly as possible.
I apologize.
I
apologize.
Things I would have changed. Like you said, the scene with the future Justice League members was just really out of place. It should have been an after credit scene, if anything. But like you said, they should have incorporated it into the Man of Steel movie, i.e., Victor Stone, a high school or college star, is in Metropolis for a game. The scene where Zod throws Clark's body into the Luthor Corp gas, what do you call those things? Gas canister trucks or whatever. I can't think of the name of it. A semi-truck, and it explodes.
Right.
You should have had Victor Stone there, and he got caught in that explosion. Right. And that's how he's that half a man piece. And you should have saw his father basically, like, you could have jumped to a scene of his father in the Star Lab somewhere trying to reconstruct. That would have held more weight. You didn't need to have Flash created by the electricity from, the World Engine, but you could have had a scene where while, Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne are arguing, Clark Kent references the fact that, there are more of us out here than you realize. And then you could have shot to a flashback to a scene of Clark Kent in the middle of a fight, do a sort of x-ray vision of another building, and you see a quick flash, somebody's going in there saving all these people, trying his hardest to save these people. And that could have been Bruce Wayne's hint that he needs to look for more people. You could have had him flashback to a scene where when he's in the World Engine and is basically killing him, what really pushes him out of the water. That could have been easily a hand or a trident or someone up there who pushes him and gives him the jump and lets him know, like, it's not just about me. It's not, the world is bigger than Superman versus Batman.
Okay.
I don't think you need an Aquaman coming into the Senate saying, stay out of my waters, because then that's a whole other movie. If he did that, then it's going to be the American government like, oh shit, maybe we do need Superman to help us go fix that problem.
Or I think the reason why I think that scene actually does work is because that's what makes Luthor say what he says. I am the deterrent. I have Zod to take him. I have my own Cyborg. I have my own Flash. I have a bullet that can take these dudes down.
Right.
I think that's why I think in the particular well, you didn't do this with me, so I'm done. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't think Luthor creating the Justice League is something I want to see.
Well,
I'd rather the Justice League, and I'm going to use this analogy. I'd rather the Justice League end up being super friends instead of we just get along with each other. Because the Avengers is we just get along with each other. We just tolerate each other. I like that. I would have preferred the unhinged Batman that you kind of put on display, and the more conversation between Superman and Batman. If the Superman had hinted that he knew or he was aware of all of these other different, potential superheroes outside of Wonder Woman, and in that conversation, maybe in that first initial fight or the second fight with Batman, he kind of gives the idea, he plants the seed in Batman's head that there are more of us out here, that it's not just me, and it's not just like, it's not as simple as this, as, oh, I got 1% of power, then I should die. Like, it's not that. And that way, when Batman says, I failed him in life, we need to find, there are more of us out here. It kind of sets the fire. It's sort of the fire that kicks it off, that makes him go on these searches.
Right. Okay. I'll let you finish or move on to DA. I just want to make sure that this is clear. I'm not saying that Luthor should create the Justice League, even though comic-wise he was on the Justice League team at one point. what I am saying, by having those two doesn't mean he creates the Justice League. It means that he has a superhero deterrent.
He's thinking of that.
Right. The way I'm saying it is, with Aquaman showing up at the United Nations, he's not connected to the Justice League at all. Matter of fact, Luthor doesn't even discover him. I think that's a better motivation. You know, Wonder Woman is still out of play. He just knows about her. The only two he has, so the three he has a dead body in Zod, and he has the two in Cyborg and Flash. And he doesn't really have them. He's more like, you got to give me the go-ahead first for me to push these people. And that's what creates conflict with him when you tell him no. I think you create a bigger story that way. I think when you start, even in my idea, I just think it's a way. I just think it's a way of selling it. Even by connecting like the electricity from the World Engine, Cyborg dying, the fact that everybody is in the same area at the same time is a little convenient.
I like to think that these people existed beforehand, and by Superman's appearance, they start to reveal themselves slowly. You know, this is why. Man of Steel, Jor-El says, you can be bigger, you can lead them into the light. He's your symbol of hope. And that's what I feel like Superman was always supposed to be. And this version of Superman was always supposed to be. So I think by him exposing himself, since Man of Steel, the entire theme was always about, will they accept you? That by him exposing himself, all of these other different people would begin to expose themselves to the light.
I concur. But with that said, then I think that's the reason why I think my idea works. Because the reason why Aquaman shows up is due to him. The reason why Wonder Woman shows up, you can even say, is due to him and Aquaman. The only two that don't show up because of him is Cyborg and Flash. You know, and those two characters are kind of harder to pull off in the way they're doing it. I think by having them already established, 18 months have gone by, so you can have them go in that way. But I think a quieter way, in a more poignant story way, is by having them already there, but already looked at, but haven't been on the scene yet. You know, so when their movies come out alone, you'll see them more in that fashion.
Personally, I would have Cyborg.
You have the last word on this, by the way.
All right, I would have Cyborg set in the 90s, not the movie, but that mother box technology was on Earth since the 90s, and basically his father has been keeping Cyborg alive until whatever this whole Man of Steel happens. I think it's a mix of both of what we're saying. I'm going to jump into the end because I don't want to go too long. Right,
because I know DA got to say. I know you got something to say, bro. I know we've been killing you. I'm sorry.
So the reason why I say this Doomsday was Bizarro, everything about him was Bizarro. They just went with the name Doomsday. If you remember in the birthing matrix or whatever they want to call that scene in the ship, when Luthor takes his body in there and he's having a conversation with the ship, and the ship is essentially saying, we don't do this anymore. It will corrupt it. It creates a corrupted weapon, and he puts him in. He's like, do it anyway. The ship almost asks him for a living tissue sample to rebirth him, because like with the birthing matrix that's part of Man of Steel or Kal-El's body, it was encoded into his DNA. Right. So Zod, they needed some type of DNA to bring Zod back to life. Right. Which explains why Luthor cut himself and basically brought Zod's body back to life and created the corrupted version of Zod, which is really the story of Bizarro, clone, whatever. I didn't mind it being in there, and I didn't mind it playing out the way it did. I think it should have been a slow build. Okay. You brought something up after we saw the movie. You brought up a great point and it made me think about it. When Luthor is talking to the Secretary of State or whoever this guy is, he never asked for Zod's body. He said, I want access to the ship. Cool, he says, and I want the alien's body. Right. And then the general says, Zod, he said, oh, okay. Right. And like you brought up, it was like he was referencing Superman, but then he thought about, oh shit, yeah, that's right, you guys have Zod's body, right? And I think they should have played on that. I think once he got that body and he went into there and he got the technology, he should have started slowly creating it, and you should have started seeing those energy surges or something going on, and so it could have built up to it. Right. Whether he's going in there manipulating the genetics on an actual like DNA level, right, or if he keeps visiting and trying to see if it's incubating, it shouldn't have been a scene 5 minutes before the fight. Right. I would have had the fight play out the exact same way, and I would have had the movie end the same way.
All right, cool. With that said, DA, what are your thoughts? Give us your 2-second thoughts. I know you like. I've said enough. What do you think, DA?
I ain't got nothing to say. Y'all done said it all. Y'all done said it all. It took too long. I'm going to say, if there is any major thing that I would have removed, first thing I would have removed would have been the Wayne death. Mm-hmm. And the levitating child. I think that was just ridiculous.
Right.
It was cheese. Mm-hmm. The levitating part was cheese. Whether it was a dream or not, you could have just put some. You could have made us know it was a dream, but because it wasn't, you didn't make us know it was a dream. You know, right off the bat, first thing you're thinking is, oh God, this is corny. Mm-hmm. Is he going to come out the hole in a costume, mm-hmm. or is he going to slide down a pole mm-hmm. into a costume? What's going to happen here? Mm-hmm. I would have. I have to say, I would have changed Luthor. He would not have been this particular Luthor. He would have been the Luthor that we know that's popular. The popular Luthor, whether it be from the Smallville type or the Superman Justice League animated series. Mm-hmm. Lex Luthor. He was, the businessman, the one who who things can't be traced back to. Mm-hmm.
It's funny you say that
because it would have made more sense for him to be pushing this and that left and right. Because all of the things that Luthor did in this movie, he shouldn't have even been in jail. They should have just shot him on sight. And I have to say the biggest problem with this movie was and you guys already touched on this, was the forced Justice League. Mm-hmm. Luthor came up with their names. He came up with logos. What? Mm-hmm. What is this? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Everybody has names and logos already.
Right.
You know how they... Sorry, DA.
Honestly...
Could I add this real quick?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, excuse the delay.
Go ahead.
That could have been fixed if, instead of it, which they didn't touch on, if it had been hinted that he gathered information from multiple sources instead of sorry, it's not picking it up. If you guys are hearing some soul music in the back, Martel lives in Spanish Harlem. Sorry, now you can't pick fights with people. They know a general area.
Well, I don't pick fights with anybody anyway.
If they had shown that like he had done research and this information had been stolen from other sources. So if he had a file on Flash, he saw Flash, like instead of seeing Flash drinking a glass of milk, looking like a 10-year-old drinking a glass of milk, he had saw the actual costume, and so he based his logo off of that costume. Or if that file of Cyborg's father, his father had already had that logo designed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
As opposed to like, it's weird. It's hard.
That's a big jump.
It's hard for me.
I'm not willing to accept that.
It's just
broad face strokes right there.
Well, I mean, hey, it's better than the idea of Lex Luthor Jr. sitting in his basement doing graphic designs.
Right, but
no, I'm just saying he he hired a firm. Hey, I want you guys to come up with logos.
Right. I mean,
I don't know their names, but here we go.
Go ahead, D. I'm sorry. Continue.
That really ruined. It was a very, very bad setup for the Justice League.
Terrible.
And there's no other way of saying it. I mean, because everyone, when I was sitting in the theater, when that scene happened, I was like, "Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me!
Right.
This is how you're going to introduce everyone? The Wonder Woman thing, I can deal with because she's existed. They would have called her Wonder Woman back in the 1900s." Mm-hmm. That I can deal with.
Plus, on the photo, you could see the W.
Everything else wouldn't have been like. And also, I agree with you on the collateral damage for Victor Stone. He should have been collateral damage in the attacks in the Zod fight. Flash, there's no getting away, or there's no getting around Flash. Flash should have been as he is and as he was in Central City. And being struck by lightning. I can't connect it. I don't want to connect it to anything, because I don't want it to. It's almost like making the Hulk not a gamma bomb thing, but more of and being a offshoot of the super soldier form. I mean, yeah, it'll work, but it's not what it is. I also think that Aquaman. I like your idea of Aquaman coming to the Senate and say, or coming to the, UN and saying, "Stay out of my water." Mm-hmm. I probably would have done something slightly different. There would have been a giant disturbance in the Atlantic Ocean, and Superman go to it, and he become overwhelmed because he's out of he's somewhat out of his element. He's in water, and he gets punched smooth out by out of the water by Aquaman, and he says, "Stay out of my realm."
Oh, so you want another? So you want another?
Wouldn't be able to see him again.
Yeah. All right. So that means you want another.
Disappear.
So that means you want another bitch out Superman moment, huh? Is that what you're saying? You want another bitch Superman ass out moment?
Well, I mean, he can't be.
No, a little bit.
We're not going to go down this road because I know where this is going to go.
Right.
I don't want to go down that road
All right.
yet.
All right. So
I'm going to move forward. I'm going to say that Aquaman and something should have happened that would have triggered Superman being called in, and then the situation being handled by Aquaman.
Okay.
And Superman backing off.
Okay.
Or or even in that. Now, as far as anything else to be changed, yes, I agree with you on Bizarro. I would have made it a Bizarro that they fought instead of Doomsday, and not even. And it's funny because after when I first watched Man of Steel, as soon as I walked out of the theater, that was the very first thing that crossed my mind. I was like, "Whoa!" The next movie they could do a Bizarro because they could bring Zod back, and Luthor could be cloning. He could be working on cloning, and the cloning not working, and then finally Bizarro could come out and fight Superman.
Right.
When they do Bizarro, they're gonna say
I would have.
Because we don't know what happened to the body of Doomsday, so they're gonna say somehow somebody took the DNA sample from Clark being stabbed in the chest and created Bizarro. It's gonna be stupid. It's gonna be that dumb.
But see, now that's more. But then that's also retreading, and you're like, oh God, we don't want to retread because the problem is I hate. This is the one thing that I hate about Man of Steel was them killing Dr. Hamilton.
Right.
Because that left out a whole lot of side story that could have developed. We could have introduced Star Labs. We could have introduced so much, and I think that removing Doomsday and saving him for a Man of Steel 2 or Man of Steel 3, and instead of Doomsday. And this is what I honestly thought the movie was going to be about. Before I learned anything about Doomsday, I honestly thought that Brainiac was going to be involved because of the technology and Lex Luthor trying to manipulate the technology and then going global with the technology and then it taking over and creating a body for itself.
Right.
And then all of them having to fight that. That's what I thought. That's what I had hoped. But that's me being hopeful. So, other than that, I like the ending I like the death. I didn't mind the death.
Right.
It was noble.
Right.
It was, I was like, okay, Superman died fighting Doomsday. That's pretty much it.
Right.
And Wonder Woman was amazing. So, that's all that I would change.
All right then. So with that said, I think we actually went on long enough. There's other topics that I kind of wanted to get into, but I think we went on long enough. Clearly, this movie has a lot in it to talk about, or a lot that I wanted to talk about because I've seen the movie 4 goddamn times and I noticed so many things. So with that said, that's basically our review of Batman v Superman, how we felt about it. I'd like to thank the DA for being in the building. I appreciate you, brother. I'm glad Thomas is in the building, literally in the building next to me. I appreciate him. And this is Martel signing off on Geek. I'll catch you in the next podcast, y'all. All right, y'all. Peace.